I know one guy that would be interested. Remember when Kevin O'Connell went to Anthony Richardson after the Vikings played the Colts this year?
Yeah.
And told him, you're going to play a long time in this league. It was caught on
Right.
NFL Films microphone. But
Right. Well, call
O'Connell's
the Vikings up.
guy.
Get a deal done. Let's go, Florio.
He's got his young quarterback. They need a veteran now because
Yeah.
they have had, in less than 24 hours, they saw Sam Darnold leave for the Seattle Seahawks, Nick Mullens leave for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and now Daniel Jones goes to Indianapolis. All they have is Brett Rippon and J.J. McCarthy under contract for 2025. What do you do if you're Minnesota? And I think it's attractive for any veteran quarterback
Definitely.
who's looking to turn his career around because, number one, you might play if the starter gets injured or just doesn't have it. And number two, you're going to learn a lot. The stuff you were talking about earlier, you're going to see football in a different way through the eyes of a guy who has shown very quickly he's one of the smartest designers of plays, callers of plays, and just guy who makes everyone feel good in an NFL locker room, who makes guys, lifts people up in a positive way. You can be part of that, or you can go play for a coach who's going to chew your ass out every chance he gets. What would you prefer? How would you prefer to live your life? Knowing that when you walk in the door, there's a good chance somebody's going to chew you out, or that somebody's going to throw his arm around you and ask about your family and see how you're doing and make sure you're in the right headspace to go have a positive day and lead to the overall betterment of the organization. I know what I'd choose. I know which way life's easier. I've had both kinds of people in my life. It's always easier with the person who's positive and uplifting and isn't looking for any way possible to try to put you down.
Yeah, agreed there. That's why, again, I'm a huge fan of Kevin O'Connell that way, but they got an issue on their hand here. To your point, they do. I mean, again, yeah, it's a rookie quarterback who we know is mature, played in a pro-style offense, but still hasn't played in a year, okay? And on top of that, was on a Michigan team where, yeah, he was coached hard and all that, but was never a guy that had to, carry the team or do any of that, right? So there's some unknowns and questions about how much, J.J. McCarthy can handle, and he's a rookie and he's coming off an injury and all that. So, yeah, they need somebody behind him to make them feel good, protect them, certainly. And, what's out there right now, Mike? I mean, that's where we get to it. I mean, Russell Wilson, is this a situation he would look at and like? I don't know. Jameis Winston, I would think, would run to Minnesota right now and go, I'll be your backup. And he certainly would fit that offense. And maybe Kevin O'Connell can look at him and go, hey, I think I'm a guy that can kind of rein Jameis in. After you get through those options right there, you start to go, well, maybe this is one of those things where we got to start looking at rosters and looking at teams that maybe have three quarterbacks and maybe one of them is expendable, and that's where you got to go. Or a Joe Flacco who's out there, right? He's still out there, right? So that is a little bit of a worry for Minnesota right now. No question, Mike.
Here's some of the names that are still available as veteran quarterbacks go. Drew Lock.
Yeah, Drew Lock would be good.
He was a second-round pick of the Broncos. He's bounced around a little bit, was with the Giants last year. Mac Jones is available.
Sure.
First-round pick in 2021. Carson Wentz is out there. We've talked about him possibly joining the Cleveland Browns. Mason Rudolph. Cooper Rush, who actually beat the Vikings once. That was pre-O'Connell. That was a Sunday night game where Dak Prescott was out, and Cooper Rush and the Cowboys still beat Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Trey Lance is a guy. Remember there was talk about a trade of Trey Lance to the Vikings a couple of years back?
Yeah.
O'Connell was already there, and I know he's kind of been beaten down, but what chances has he really had? And he would benefit from Kevin O'Connell, but I think they want somebody who's played. I think that's the problem. Let's not just go draft a guy whose name is recognizable, who had a high draft pedigree, but hasn't played. It makes it harder to have a true veteran presence if the guy hasn't played. And Trey Lance hasn't played much.
No, exactly. And you don't want to trust him in that spot. He hasn't earned that. I think some of the early names, again, I'd have no problem with Jameis Winston, certainly not. And you talked about, who was it, Drew Lock? Drew Lock would fit that. He's got the ability to throw the ball down the field and make power plays with his arm. We've seen that. We saw that in Seattle when he had to come in for Geno Smith 2 years ago and play and did well. Mac Jones certainly is going to be able to run the offense and might be the perfect guy. He's played. He's smart. He'll be ready if he's the backup. He won't be that threatening physically to J.J. McCarthy where the rest of the team's going to be like, whoa, have you seen Mac Jones? Maybe we should start him over J.J. McCarthy. So that makes sense. There's options out there. There is. There definitely is. Now, they're just not as sexy as they might have been a day or two ago or whatever else. But, yeah, there's some guys there that would make me feel good.
The thing about Mac Jones, he's not going to walk through the door and willingly accept being a backup. He's going to try to compete. He's going to think he's better. And, he's kind of been a low-key handful. Not in necessarily a bad way,
I agree,
but like in New England, he was one of the few that rejected the Stepford Patriot microchip. And he wasn't afraid to make it known when he was pissed off about the way his career was being handled by Bill Belichick. When after Josh McDaniels leaves, Belichick gets one of the stupidest ideas any coach has had in years, to put a lifetime defensive coach in charge of the offense and responsible for the development of a young quarterback. One of the stupidest ideas any NFL coach has had.
I won't disagree there.
We said at the time,
right.
We said at the time, if it was anybody but Bill Belichick, the prevailing response would be, has this human being lost his effing mind?
Right.
And I think it's fair in hindsight to ask whether that's what happened to Bill Belichick. Maybe that was the moment everything went
maybe it
sideways.
Is. Definitely, I've scratched my head more about Bill Belichick and what he is over the last year and a half, too, than ever before in my life.
When that Hard Knocks nugget first came out, I asked someone who knows Belichick, why in the world would the guy who would have never done Hard Knocks with the Patriots all of a sudden embrace Hard Knocks? And the response was, why is he doing any of the things?
Right. I mean, right.
Doing?
Yeah. I know.
Starting with,
I don't like the media, but I'm going to be in the media every day. I don't like the media, but I'm going to be in the media every day. I don't like distractions. We're going to have distractions all over me all the time now. I know. And to return the favor, he's not a great source for me anymore, so I don't care.
To your point.
Yeah.
Mac Jones.
Right.
Mac Jones would be a potential, but you just have to worry that he's not going to support the young guy the way that maybe the Vikings need. And you mentioned Russell Wilson. Look, and this is not specific to Russell Wilson. One of the reasons that I respect Joe Flacco so much, he was once, actually twice, the highest paid player in NFL history. After he did his contract in 2013 following Super Bowl 47, and the contract was negotiated in a way that after 2 or 3 years, the Ravens had to come back to the table and make him the highest paid player in the NFL all over again to deal with the cap charge. He willingly will stand on the sideline, hold the clipboard, be the backup, because he just loves it. He's the only guy who was the highest paid player in league history at some point in his career, and again, it was twice for him, who willingly has embraced that. Russell Wilson was once the highest paid player in NFL history. Russell Wilson does not strike me as a guy who, like Joe Flacco, is just going to hang around as long as he can. I just want to play football. I just want to be on a team. I just want to go to practice. I just want to be part of it. I don't mind if I'm not playing. I'm just happy to be here. I want to play as long as I can, even if I'm not playing. I don't think that's Russell Wilson. I don't think he willingly accepts backup job.
He's a big personality. He's a strong personality because of his career and all that too. There's a tension that comes with Russell Wilson, and then again with that, right? You might have to deal with stuff if J.J. McCarthy sputters a little bit. It starts conversations. So I mean, I hear you with what you're saying, and I think some of those other names that we've discussed are a little less threatening that way, or at least a little less. Headliney as far as bringing somebody like a Drew Lock into town, or even a Jameis Winston, because I don't think anybody's going to look at it and go, hey, Jameis Winston, we've seen he's willing to take the back seat, be the team guy, do all that. I mean, man, he kept his mouth quiet behind Deshaun Watson, where he was probably like, what? I could play better if I throw with my other arm right now. Why don't you let me in there? So he is willing to be that guy. I'm going to be interested to see where Minnesota goes there and how they attack this.
And one of the things you have to think about as a head coach is the personalities of the locker room, individually and collectively. And when a guy like Cam Bynum, who seemed to be the life of the party for the Vikings, the celebration guy,
right,
when he goes to Indy, you've got a vacancy for life of the party guy. And Jameis Winston could come in and be that guy to bring some personality, some positivity, the guy who can get everybody fired up and who can play if he needs to play.
Right.
And the way that things ended for him last year in Cleveland, he's one of the guys whose phone isn't ringing. There was a point last year where it's like, hey, Jameis Winston's earned himself a starting job. And then it was like, no, he's not. After the Thursday night game against the Steelers, it's like, hey, this guy's going to be a starter next year. And then the Monday night game against the Broncos, well, Jameis, it was fun while it lasted. But he is a fun guy. We had a great time with him at the Super Bowl. He gave us a pep talk. I wanted to get up and bounce off of a brick wall after hearing it. So he might be exactly what J.J. McCarthy needs as a big brother type figure who will give him a boost when he needs a boost. Not Mac Jones, who might be looking to shank him if he gets the chance because that's his best path to the football field. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way to Mac Jones, although I can't think of many positive ways.
Well, he's got to be careful.
Apply to shanking
with Mac Jones.
But he wants to play. He's competitive. I want to play. And that's why these guys like Russell Wilson, think through history. The great quarterbacks. Do you think Peyton Manning would have ever accepted a backup job anywhere? Remember the story about how when he was injured in 2015 and Brock Osweiler was playing and he was trying to convince Gary Kubiak he was ready to go, and there was a video camera and Peyton was doing all the stuff for the camera so Kubiak could evaluate it, and then Peyton went over to the camera and gave Kubiak the middle finger. I mean, he's ready to play.
Yeah.
And he's not going to take a spot on the bench. So Jameis Winston would. Jameis Winston would be happy to do it. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.